Ara Finch entered the forbidden thornwood searching for Moonflower to keep her sick sister alive. Instead, she found a gigantic silver-gray wolf trapped inside a ring of fire, poisoned by silver arrows, and only moments from death. Saving him meant sacrificing the last vial of moonwater her mother had left, the one medicine that might save her sister during the next winter attack. Ara knew the choice was foolish, but she poured every drop between the wolf's jaws. Silver light exploded through the flames. When it faded, the wolf was gone. A wounded man knelt in its place, staring at her with ancient golden eyes. The moment Ara touched him, something wild awakened between them. He raised one trembling hand toward her face and whispered a single word. "Mate." Then hunting horns sounded through the trees. Earlier that night, the first rule of the Thornwood was simple. Never enter after dusk. 22-year-old Ara Finch had broken that rule 3 times this month, and tonight would make it 4. Moonflower bloomed only in darkness, its pale petals drinking starlight until they shone like frost. One stem could be sold for enough coin to feed Ara and her 15-year-old sister, Wren, for a week. A handful might cover their rent before Magistrate Corvus sent another collector to their cottage. So Ara pushed deeper beneath the ancient trees, ignoring the shadows shifting between twisted trunks and the warning chill at the back of her neck. Her worn satchel already held wild sage, witch hazel, feverfew, and dried nettle root. Respectable apothecaries charged more for those herbs than Ara earned in a month. She had learned to gather them herself because every copper mattered when Wren's lungs could close without warning. Their widowed neighbor Mira sometimes left bread beside the cottage door during the hardest winters, though she always pretended it had appeared there by accident. The border village of Briar's End belonged to the human kingdom of Ashbourne. Beyond the northern ridge lay the frost line and the territories of the northern packs. The Thornwood stood between them, claimed by neither side under an old and fragile treaty. Humans said wolves haunted its deepest paths. Wolves said humans had made monsters of themselves long before the first shifter was born. Ara believed both stories contained some truth. She was nearly at the Moonflower Hollow when she smelled smoke, not the warm smoke of a cottage hearth. This was sharper, fouler burning oil and dry bark mixed with something metallic. Silver. Ara stopped so suddenly that the jars in her satchel knocked together. Fire in the Thornwood could spread to Briar's End before dawn. It could reach the thatched roofs, the grain stores, and the cottage where Wren slept. Ara should have turned back. Then a howl tore through the forest. The sound was not a threat. It was agony raw and so powerful that Ara felt it vibrate behind her ribs. Every sensible instinct told her to run. Her healer's heart pulled her toward the flames. Ara gathered her skirts and raced through the trees. Heat struck her first, a wall of air so hot it dried her throat. Smoke rolled through the undergrowth. Through it she saw that the fire was not spreading naturally. Someone had built a deliberate ring of flame with oil-soaked brush and iron stakes. Something enormous lay trapped at its center, a wolf. But no ordinary wolf could have been that large. Even collapsed, it was nearly the size of a warhorse. Silver-gray fur shimmered beneath soot and blood. Its paws were broad enough to cover dinner plates. Several silver-tipped arrows protruded from its shoulder and thigh. Its golden eyes found hers through the smoke. They were not the eyes of an animal. They held pain, fury, intelligence, and a silent plea that stole the breath from Ara's lungs. "Hunters," she whispered. Magistrate Corvus had led patrols through the Thornwood for weeks, claiming he was protecting Briar's End from unnatural beasts. Ada had seen the trophies his men brought back: paws nailed above the barracks, silver pelts dragged through mud, bones displayed in the square. Her grandmother's warning returned to her: "Stay away from the wolf-kind, child. Human kings fear what they cannot command, and frightened kings make cruel laws." The trapped wolf tried to rise. Its front legs buckled. Dark veins spread from the arrow wounds, branching beneath the fur. Silver poison. Ara's hand moved to the smallest pocket of her satchel. Inside rested a single glass vial filled with moonwater mist, gathered during a lunar eclipse and blessed beneath the old healer stones. It was the most valuable thing Ara owned. Her mother had left it to her. Ara had guarded it since her mother's death, saving it for the next time Ren's lungs seized and ordinary remedies failed. One dose might save the wolf. Without it, Ren might not survive the next hard winter. "Choose," Ara's practical mind demanded. "Your sister or a creature that could tear you apart." The wolf's golden eyes never left hers. Despite the silver in its blood, despite the flames and the human scent on her clothes, it looked at her with desperate trust. "Damn you," Ara breathed. She wrapped her cloak around her mouth and jumped the lowest section of flame. Fire caught the hem of her skirt. She beat it out with one hand and dropped beside the wolf's head. Up close, the creature was even more terrifying. One fang was longer than her hand. Its breath came in shallow, burning bursts. Yet when Ada reached for the vial, it went completely still. "This was meant for someone I love," she whispered, "so you had better live." She uncorked the moonwater and poured it between the wolf's jaws. Silver light flowed down its throat. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then radiance spread beneath the wolf's skin, tracing the dark veins and forcing the poison backward. Its body arched. A pulse of wild power struck the clearing hard enough to extinguish half the flames and throw Ada onto the scorched ground. She covered her face. When the light faded, the wolf was gone. A man knelt where it had been. Ada forgot how to breathe. He was broad-shouldered and powerful, his skin marked by burn and arrow wounds that matched the injuries of the wolf. Black hair streaked with silver fell across a strong face. He looked no older than 30, though something ancient lived in his eyes. Those eyes were still gold. Ada tore her gaze away long enough to pull off her cloak and throw it over him. The man's fingers closed around the fabric. "You saved me." His voice was rough, deep, and touched by an accent from beyond the frost line. "You were a wolf. I still am." The stories were true. Ada had poured her last moonwater into the mouth of a wolf shifter. The man attempted to stand. His legs failed. Ara caught his arm before he fell. His skin burned beneath her palm. The instant they touched, power rushed through her. It felt like lightning moving through moonlit water. Something inside the man reached towards something hidden inside Ara, and the golden light in his eyes flared. His nostrils widened as though he had caught a scent he had been searching for his entire life. He raised one trembling hand and stopped before touching her face. "May I?" The question startled her almost as much as the transformation. Ara nodded once. His rough palm settled against her cheek with impossible gentleness. "Mate," he whispered. The word struck through her like the echo of a great bell. Ara stepped back. "I am not anything of yours." Pain crossed his face, followed by something that looked almost like shame. "No," he said quickly. "Recognition is not ownership." My wolf spoke before I could think. Horns sounded through the trees. The man's head snapped toward the noise. "Corvus," he growled. "His hunters are returning." "You know him. He built the trap." Torchlight moved between the trees. The wounded stranger swayed again. Whatever the moonwater had done, silver still poisoned his blood. "Can you walk?" Ada asked. "I can fight." That was not the question. Another horn sounded closer. Ada seized his wrist. "I know these woods. Follow me." For one tense second, pride warred with survival in his expression. Then he nodded, led. They slipped through the thornwood while hunters shouted behind them. Ara took deer paths hidden beneath fallen branches and crossed a stream twice to break their scent. The man moved silently despite his wounds, though she heard each time his breath caught. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ara Finch." He repeated it as though committing it to memory. "I am Kale, only Kale. No family name, no rank." Ara did not press him. Near the village edge, torchlight flared behind them. "There!" someone shouted. The beast went toward the healer's cottage. They tracked the blood. Kale said. Ara's cottage stood apart from the village, surrounded by an untidy herb garden. She dragged him inside and bolted the door. "Wren!" Her sister appeared from the back room, dark braid loose over one shoulder. She took in Ara's burned skirt, the blood, and the nearly naked stranger wearing Ara's cloak. Her eyes widened. "Should I ask?" "No. Sell her, now." "Ara, please." Wren heard the fear beneath the command. She lifted the hidden trapdoor beneath the rug and disappeared below. Kale moved to the shuttered window. 6 hunters, silver spears, wolfbane oil. "You can smell all of that?" "I can smell their fear." A pounding shook the front door. "Healer Finch!" Corvus shouted. "Open under authority of the crown." Kale turned toward Ara. "Give me up. Say I forced my way inside. And watch them finish what they started. They will leave you and your sister alive. You do not know Corvus." Ara pulled Kale toward her tiny treatment room. It contained a narrow cot, a table, and shelves of jars. He did not move. "You do not understand what I am. I understand that you are wounded, poisoned, and stubborn. Get inside." Surprise flickered over his face. Then, despite everything, the corner of his mouth lifted. He stepped into the room. "What are you going to do?" Ara asked. "Something difficult." The door to the cottage crashed inward before she could ask more. Magistrate Corvus entered with 5 hunters behind him. He was tall, clean-shaven, and dressed too well for a man who claimed to spend his days protecting poor villages. His cold gaze traveled over Ara's scorched clothes. "Healer Finch, we are tracking a dangerous wolf beast. I have seen no beast." Corvus sniffed the air. "I smell burned fur and wild magic. You smell my remedies. Sage, moonwort, and feverfew. Search the house. You have no right. The crown granted me authority to destroy cursed creatures wherever they hide." The hunters overturned baskets, opened cupboards, and spilled carefully dry. One lifted the cellar door and found Wren standing among sacks of roots. "Only the sister," he said. Corvus looked disappointed. Then he approached the treatment room. Ara stepped in front of him. "Those medicines are delicate. Then make more." He pushed the door open. The room was empty. Ara stared. The cot was undisturbed. The narrow window was still latched from inside. Corvus searched every corner before turning back. "If you see anything unusual, report it. Wolfkind wear human faces, but they remain animals." His gaze settled on Ara's throat, as if imagining a noose there. "Those who shelter them burn beside them." He left with his hunters. Ara waited until the hoofbeats faded before running to the treatment room. "Kale?" The air beside the cot shimmered. Kale appeared as though stepping through invisible water. He braced one hand against the wall, pale with effort. "Concealment," he said. "A minor royal gift." "Royal?" He closed his eyes briefly. Later, his knees buckled. Ara caught him and guided him onto the cot. The moon water had forced the poison back from his heart and eased the worst of his burns, but the arrow wounds remained dark. Silver veins spread beneath his skin. Ara reached for charcoal, comfrey, and willow bark. "These will slow the poison," she said. "They will not remove it." "I know. You used magic while poisoned." "I had little choice. You always have choices." Kale studied her. "Yes," he said quietly. "You are right." Ara worked until sweat dampened her hair. Wren eventually emerged from the cellar and helped grind herbs. Kale watched the sisters move together. "The moon water was for her," he said. Ara's hands stilled. Wren looked between them. "What moon water?" "Nothing." "Ara." Ara exhaled. "The eclipse vial." Wren went pale. "You used it. He was dying. So are people every day. He was being tortured." Wren looked at Kale, then at the black veins spreading from his wounds. Her anger softened into fear. "You had better be worth it," she told him. Kale bowed his head. "I intend to spend the rest of my life proving that I was." The words were too intense for a stranger. Ara returned to the wound. By midnight, the poison worsened. Kale's eyes shifted from gold to black. His teeth lengthened. Muscles tightened beneath Ara's bandages. "Move away," he said through clenched teeth. Ara reached for the sedative tincture. "Not until you drink this." "Ara," his voice broke into a growl. "My wolf is losing control." Wren backed toward the door. Ara held the cup to Kale's mouth. "Then let me help you control it." His hand closed around her wrist, not hard enough to hurt, but strong enough to stop her. "Please," he said, "go." Then a violent convulsion arched his body. Ara stumbled forward. Kale's wolf surged through the poison. His teeth struck the place where her neck met her shoulder. Pain flashed white. Ara cried out. The bite lasted only a heartbeat. Kale released her at once and threw himself backward with such force that he struck the wall. Blood marked his mouth. Horror replaced the darkness in his eyes. "No!" Ara pressed a hand to her neck. Heat spread beneath her skin. Dark silver lines formed around the bite in the shape of curling thorns. Kale stared at them as if they were a death sentence. "I marked you. You bit me. I know. You told me to leave. I should have sent you farther away. I should have let the poison take me before risking you." Ren rushed to Ara's side with clean cloth. "What does the mark do?" Ara asked. Kale's hands shook. "It is not a completed claim. It is a fractured recognition mark, wild magic, without consent or ritual to guide it. Can it be removed?" "Yes." The immediate answer surprised her. Kale swallowed. "There are 3 rites. Severing can remove the bond entirely. Stillwater can stabilize it while you remain human. Awakening can allow the wolf magic to merge with something already inside you if you possess the blood for it." Ara's anger sharpened. "And if I possess none? So I do not have to become your mate?" "No." "Will either rite kill me?" "No." "The mark will become dangerous if it remains untreated, but there is time. You have 12 days before the next full moon strengthens the untreated mark beyond safe control." Ren looked relieved. Ara did not. "You will not touch me again without permission." Kale lowered his head. "Never, do not call me yours. I will not. And whatever your wolf thinks it recognized, I decide what happens next." "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. Ara sat on the edge of the bed while Ren cleaned the bite. Through the mark, she sensed Kale's guilt deep enough to feel like cold rain. She did not forgive him, but she believed he understood the shape of what he had done. A howl sounded outside, then another answered from the forest. Kale lifted his head. "My pack." By dawn, 8 wolves, the maximum number permitted under the treaty's emergency recovery clause, surrounded the cottage. Theron had crossed with a limited royal recovery party after receiving Kale's blood call. An exception allowed when a foreign ruler was wounded on neutral ground. At their front stood a massive pale ash-gray wolf, with a white mane around its neck, silver markings limited to both shoulders, and amber eyes. It shifted into a tall man with pale hair and amber eyes. He knelt before Kale. "Your Majesty." Ara stared at Kale. Ren whispered, "You said your name was only Kale." Kale looked almost embarrassed. "Kale Stormborn, Alpha King of the Northern Packs." Ara laughed once in disbelief. "Of course you are." The white-haired man rose. "Theron Ashclaw, commander of the Royal Guard." His gaze moved to Ara's neck. Every trace of formality vanished. "What happened?" "I lost control," Kale said. "The fault is mine." Theron's jaw tightened. "We need Elder Malin." "She has 12 days," Kale said. "Less if Corvus used Vespera's silver compound." Ara looked between them. "Who is Vespera?" Kale's expression dark. "Lady Vespera Morcant, magical advisor to King Edric of Ashbourne. Corvus serves her." Theron crossed to the window. The trap bore her blood runes. "She has been abducting wolves for months, testing silver compounds, and blaming every disappearance on feral packs." "Why were you alone?" Ara asked Kale. "I followed one of her supply wagons into the Thornwood. I believed I could confirm the treaty breach and return before her men knew I was there." "You walked into a trap." "Yes. Kings can be foolish, then." Theron coughed into his hand to hide a laugh. Kale looked at Ara with weary acceptance. "This one can." Theron explained the border treaty. Human soldiers were forbidden to hunt beyond the southern markers. Wolf armies were forbidden to cross south in force. Vespera's experiments violated the agreement and could ignite a war. "We must move," Theron said. "Corvus will return with more men." Kale looked at Ara. There is a Moonwell refuge one day north. Elder Malin can examine the mark and treat Ren's lungs. You and your sister will be protected there. Ada glanced toward Ren. Her sister tried to hide a cough behind her sleeve and failed. The smoke from the forest had already made her breathing rough. Both of us? Ara asked. Both, Kale said, and the choice of what happens to the mark remains yours. Ara packed only what they could carry. Before leaving, she looked once at the cottage her mother had fought so hard to keep. Then she closed the door. Corvus returned before they reached the northern path. Human soldiers blocked the road, silver weapons raised. The magistrate sat on a black horse beneath the red and gold banner of Ashbourne. Kale Stormborn, he called, by order of King Edric, surrender yourself. Theron stepped forward. Produce the king's sealed order. Corvus smiled. My authority is sufficient, not under the Frostline Treaty. Beasts do not interpret human law. Kale's wolves spread across the path. Ara felt the recognition mark heat as his anger rose. He did not attack. Instead, Kale called loudly enough for every soldier to hear. Your magistrate hunted a foreign king on neutral ground, used silver fire forbidden by treaty, and threatened human civilians to conceal it. Any soldier who lowers his weapon now will be treated as a witness, not an enemy. Several men exchanged uncertain looks. Corvus drew his sword. Advance! No one moved. Kale's authority was not magic, it was certainty. One soldier lowered his spear, then another. Corvus's face twisted. This is not over. No, Ara said from beside Kale. It is not. The wolves escorted Ara and Ren into the thornwood. The Moonwell refuge lay beneath a cliff hidden by hanging vines and falling water. Inside, warm mineral pools glowed under pale crystals. Pack healers treated humans and wolves alike. Elder Malin was an old woman with cloud-white hair and a scar crossing one eye. She examined Ara's bite without fear. Fract, she said, corrupted by silver residue, but not beyond repair. Kale stood at the far side of the chamber, keeping the distance Ara had demanded. Malin placed one hand above Ara's heart. Golden light answered from within Ara's chest. The elder's remaining eye widened. Moon healer blood. Ara frowned. I am human. So were the first moon healers. They carried sleeping wolf spirits and healing gifts. In the same blood, most hid among humans after King Edric's grandfather ordered their sanctuaries burned. Ara thought of her mother's impossible remedies and her grandmother's warnings. The mark did not create this, she asked. No, it opened a door already inside you. Malin described the 3 paths. The severing right would remove the recognition thread. Ara would remain human. Kale would remain alive. Neither would retain access to the other's emotions. The Stillwater Rite would stabilize the mark indefinitely without completing it. Ara could remain human without a deadline. The Moon Healer Awakening would merge her healing gift with the sleeping wolf spirit. It did not require a mating bond. And completion with Kale? Ara asked. A separate choice, Malin said, one that should not be considered until trust exists. Ara looked at Kale. He held her gaze but did not move closer. I choose Stillwater, she said. Relief and pain crossed his face at once. Malin nodded. Then Stillwater it will be. The rite took place beside the lowest moonwell pool. Malin drew a circle of salt, moonflower pollen, and powdered pearl around Ara, then placed 3 smooth stones before her. The first represents what happened without your consent, the elder said. The second represents what remains yours despite it. The third represents what you may choose later. Ara touched the first stone. The fractured mark burned. She felt Kale's poisoned fear from the cottage, the moment his wolf had broken through his control, and the instant his teeth struck her skin. The memory carried no romance, only pain, shock, and his immediate horror. Ara set the stone down. That belongs to the past, Malin said. It does not receive permission to choose your future. Ara touched the second stone. Her own healing magic answered steady, warm, and entirely hers. It had existed before Kale, before the mark, before any wolf recognized her. The third stone remained cool beneath her fingers. What does this one show? Ara asked. Nothing, Malin said, because no one has written it yet. Ara closed her hand around it. Still water flowed through the mark like rain over heated metal. The silver lines at her neck faded to a pale pattern, and the constant pull toward Kale loosened until she could hear her own thoughts without his emotions beneath them. When the rite ended, Kale was still standing outside the circle. Ara rose slowly. What do you feel? Malin asked. Myself. It was the right answer. Later, Ara found Kale alone beside the waterfall. He had changed into black trousers and a dark wool shirt, but the bandages beneath it showed where silver had burned him. You did not have to wait outside, she said. Yes, I did. Ara stopped several steps away. Do your people expect me to forgive you because your wolf recognized me? No. Do they expect me to become your mate? Some will. They are wrong. Will you tell them that? In every language they understand. The answer was almost enough to make her smile. Almost. You called the concealment gift minor, she said. Theron called it royal. Kale looked toward the falling water. My bloodline carries several gifts. Concealment, long-distance pack speech, stronger shifts. None of them protected me from arrogance. You mean walking alone into Vespera's trap? Yes, good. I wanted to make sure we agreed. He glanced at her. We do. Ara studied the Alpha King who had been a dying animal beneath her hands only one night before. I saved you because you were suffering, she said. Not because you were a king, not because your wolf wanted something from me. I know. And if I decide on severing later, I will attend the rite if Malin requires it. Then I will leave you in peace unless you ask otherwise. You make it sound easy. It will not be easy. For the first time, Kale allowed the truth to show without hiding it beneath royal certainty. But your freedom is not measured by how much it hurts me. Ara carried that sentence with her long after she returned to Ren. Kale had to return north before the council fractured. Vespera will claim I attacked Ashbourne, he told Ara. If I am absent when her accusations arrive, several packs may mobilize without orders. How long? Ara asked. 10 days, less if I can manage it. And if you do not return, Stillwater will hold. You may choose severing whenever you wish, or keep the bond dormant. Either way, you will live. You would accept that? His jaw tightened. I would hate losing the connection. I would hate losing the chance to know you, but I would rather lose both than see you trapped by what I did. Ara believed him. Before leaving, Kale stood an arm's length away. May I touch your hand? She considered, yes. His fingers closed gently around hers. The mark warmed but did not pull. I am sorry, he said, not because the bite frightened me, because it frightened you. Ara did not offer forgiveness. Come back with proof, she said, not promises, I will. That night, Ara dreamed of snow. Kale stood beside a frozen lake beneath a silver moon. This is not real, she said. The recognition thread is finding a quiet path. Can you enter my dreams whenever you want? No, I asked before crossing. Ara realized she had felt the question as a soft pressure against the mark, and had answered without understanding. Ask in words next time. I will. Over the following nights, the dream space became a place for truths neither found easy while awake. On the second night, Ara found Kale standing in a great hall with every window covered. This is your palace? She asked. A memory of it. Why are the windows closed? My father believed enemies could see weakness through glass. Ara walked to the nearest shutter and opened it. Snow-covered mountains appeared beneath a violet sky. Kale watched her with an unreadable expression. You changed the memory, he said. It needed air. He told her about inheriting the Northern Crown at 19 after hunters killed his father under a false peace banner. The young king had answered grief with raids, until his uncle Darien forced him to see the villages. Caught between both sides, I thought strength meant never being uncertain, Kale admitted, and now I know certainty can be another name for refusing to listen. On the third night, the dream became Ara's old kitchen. Her mother stood at the table, crushing herbs as she had before the winter fever. Kale remained near the door. You may leave, she said. Do you want me to? No. He stayed without approaching. Ara told him how Corvus had confiscated their strongest medicines for unpaid tax, claiming the crown's soldiers needed them more. Her mother died 3 days later. Ara had been 16. Ren had been 9 and already struggling to breathe. I hated every patient who came to our door after that, Ara confessed. For almost a year, I healed them while wondering why their lives deserved what my mother had been denied. What changed? Ren asked me whether becoming cruel would bring her back. Kale looked at the woman in the memory. Your sister was right. She usually is. It is unbearable. On the fourth night, Kale asked before stepping closer. Ara allowed him to sit opposite her beside the frozen lake. What does recognition feel like to you? She asked. Like finding a path I did not know I had been walking toward. That I have had several nights to improve the answer. What did it feel like before the bite? Hope, and after, shame. Ara looked down at the frost between them. I do not want your shame to become another burden I have to carry. He was silent for a moment. Then I will carry it as responsibility instead. That answer reached somewhere anger had not allowed him before. On the fifth night, they argued. Kale wanted Ara and Ren moved farther north, beyond the reach of human soldiers. Ara refused to leave the border permanently. Briar's End needs a healer. Briar's End let Corvus threaten you. Some did, others brought food when Ren was ill. People are not their magistrate. You could be safe in the palace. A beautiful cage remains a cage. The dream trembled as Kel's frustration rose. Then he stopped. "You are right," he said. Aura blinked. "That quickly? I am learning that arguing longer does not make me less wrong." She laughed despite herself. It was the first time she laughed with him rather than at him. On the 6th night, they spoke about smaller things. Kel hated sweet wine, royal portraits, and musicians who played during meals. Aura loved thunderstorms, fresh bread, and the smell of rosemary crushed between her fingers. He confessed that he carved small animals badly when council sessions became unbearable. Aura demanded proof. The next morning, Taryn searched a spare travel pack Kel had left at the refuge and produced a wooden bird with one wing twice the size of the other. His Majesty insisted this was a hawk, the commander said. Wren examined it solemnly. "It is suffering." Aura kept it beside her bed. By the 7th night, the dream space no longer felt like an invasion. It felt like a room with 2 doors, each of which remained locked until the other person knocked. Kel told her why he distrusted human courts, why he investigated Vespera alone, and why his wolf had never recognized a potential mate before Aura. Aura told him about learning to heal in secret, about Wren's first lung attack, and about the fear that every act of kindness would eventually cost more than she could afford. She also told him she was still angry. "You should be," Kel said. "The bite was not romantic." "I know. If you ever describe it that way, I will throw you into your own frozen lake." A faint smile touched his mouth. Understood. Later that 7th night, Wren's lungs seized. Aura woke to her sister struggling for breath. The moon water was gone. Panic threatened to empty Aura's mind. Malin brought steaming herbs, but Wren's chest remained tight. Aura placed both hands over her sister's ribs. The sleeping wolf inside her stirred. Healing light flowed from her palms, not silver, not gold, but both. Aura felt damaged airways, inflammation, old scar tissue. She did not force the power. She guided it. Wren's next breath came easier, then another. By dawn, she slept peacefully. Malin examined her and smiled. "You did not cure everything, but you repaired damage no herb could reach." Aura stared at her hands. The moonwater sacrifice had not doomed Wren. It had led Aura toward a power that might one day free her sister from fear entirely. Wren woke after sunrise and immediately demanded breakfast. Aura began crying so suddenly that her sister looked alarmed. "What? You are breathing." "I usually do. Not like this." Wren drew a slow breath. No wheeze followed. Her eyes filled. "Did you do that?" "Part of it." Wren reached for Aura's hand. "Then perhaps saving the wolf was not the worst decision you ever made. I am reserving judgment." Taryn brought broth and pretended not to notice either sister crying. When Wren thanked him, he became so formal that she later accused him of being frightened by feelings. "He commands royal armies," Aura said. "Yes, feelings are more dangerous." The improvement in Wren's lungs did not erase years of weakness. Malin insisted on rest, herbs, and gradual recovery. That mattered to Aura. Magic had helped, but it had not turned her sister into proof that suffering always ended neatly. Healing remained work. On the 8th day, Darian Stormborn arrived. Kale's uncle ruled the deep wilds, where wolves refused both human crowns and pack councils. He was tall, scarred, and carried red fire in his eyes. "I have been tracking Vespera's laboratories for 2 years," he told Ara. "My scouts found 3 burned sites and cages built for children with magic. Why did no one stop her? Evidence disappeared. Witnesses vanished. Corvus controlled the border courts. Darian placed a map on the table. One of Vespera's hidden routes ended near the Moonwell Refuge." "She knows this place?" Ara asked. "She knows a refuge exists, not where." Before dawn the following morning, one of Darian's scouts found a blood rune embedded in the silver residue on Ara's discarded bandage. Vespera had woven the tracing spell into Kale's poison. The moon water had destroyed most of, but a surviving fragment passed into Ara during the accidental bite and awakened when it touched her fractured mark. It collected in the blood on the cloth and allowed the recognition thread to lead Vespera north. The rune was destroyed, but it had already revealed the Moonwell Valley. Darian's map also showed that one of Vespera's abandoned mining routes passed beneath the valley. She had never known it connected to Moonwell, but the tracing rune had given her the final piece. Theron immediately doubled the guard. It was not enough. Lady Vespera came under a white peace banner on the 9th morning. She arrived with 6 attendants, a sealed letter from King Edric, and a smile too calm for a woman accused of hunting a foreign monarch. "I request an audience," she said, "to prevent war." Theron refused her entry. Vespera held up the royal seal. "The king proposes a joint inquiry." Refuse, and every human court will hear that the northern Ara stepped from behind the guards. "No one kidnapped us." Vespera's pale eyes settled on the mark at Ara's neck. Interest sharpened them. "So the reports were true. You built the trap. I built an instrument of negotiation. Corvus was told to capture Kale alive. You surrounded him with fire and silver arrows. Kings rarely cooperate without incentive." Ara understood then that Vespera did not think of cruelty as cruelty. She thought of it as method. The advisor turned to Theron. "I will return at sunset with authority to search this refuge." Darian laughed from the shadows. "You will not return at all if you cross the treaty stones with soldiers." For the first time, Vespera looked unsettled. She left. At sunset, the waterfall stopped. Blood-red symbols appeared across the stone. Vespera had poisoned the spring feeding the Moonwell with powdered silver and blood magic. Guards collapsed as the wards failed. Corvus led soldiers through a hidden lower passage. The attack had been planned before the peace banner ever appeared. Theron fought at the entrance. Darian's wolves met the soldiers in the tunnels. Ara ran for Ren's chamber. Vespera reached it first. She held a silver blade beneath Ren's chin. "Come quietly," she said, "or your sister pays for your defiance." Ara surrendered. Vespera dragged the sisters back through the same mining tunnel, while Corvus's soldiers held the entrance. The passage led to an abandoned iron mine beneath the southern ridge, converted into a laboratory. Glass vessels lined the walls. Silver chains hung above stone tables. Records described captured wolves, magical children, and failed bond experiments. Corvus bound Ara to a chair. "You lied to me beneath your own roof," he said. "You threatened my sister beneath it," Ara replied. He struck her. Ren screamed. Vespera stopped him with a look. "She is more valuable conscious." The advisor examined Ara's mark. "Stillwater stabilization. To understand why you survived." "I survived because Kale stopped." "No. You survived because your blood is useful." Vespera poured a silver solution across the edge of the mark. Pain exploded through Ara. The recognition thread opened like a wound. Far away, Kale felt it. Ara sensed his shock, then fury. Vespera smiled. There. The bond transmits pain across distance. With refinement, we could bring every alpha king to his knees, through the people he loves. "You call wolves beasts," Ara gasped, "but you built a laboratory to torture families." History remembers results, not methods. Corvus prepared another vial. Ara looked at Ren. Her sister was terrified, but alive. Ara reached inward. Stillwater had not erased the sleeping wolf. It had only given Ara silence in which to hear it. The white wolf waited behind a door of pale light, not demanding, not claiming, waiting for her choice. Ara opened the door a fraction. Power flowed through her. "What are you doing?" "Choosing." Ara released a pulse of moon healer light. The nearest chain shattered. Corvus raised his sword. Ren kicked the back of his knee. He fell. Ara tore one hand free and drove healing magic into the blood runes controlling the room. Instead of feeding them, she reversed their flow. Every ward Vespera had built flashed visible. Every hidden cage unlocked. The laboratory doors burst open. Darian's wolves poured inside. Darren followed with surviving guards. Vespera reached for Ren again. Ara crossed the room before she understood how she had moved. Her eyes burned silver gold. She struck the advisor's wrist, sending the blade across the floor. "No more children," Ara said. Corvus lunged from behind. An enormous silver-gray wolf slammed Corvus into the wall. Kale shifted before hitting the ground. He stood between Ara and the magistrate, breathing hard. He had already been riding south with the council records when the bond, and he had shifted and run the final miles without stopping. His gaze went first to Ara's face, then to the broken chains, then to Ren. "You came," Ara said. "You called. I did more than call." Pride entered his expression. "Yes," he said, "you did. Kale did not kill Corvus." Ara saw how much restraint that required. Instead, he ordered both Vespera and Corvus chained with their own silver restraints, lined in cloth to prevent needless injury. "Why spare them?" Darian asked. "Because dead enemies become stories," Ara said. "Living ones can answer questions." Kale looked at her. "You heard her. The laboratory records revealed the full conspiracy. Vespera had forged portions of King Edric's orders, diverted royal funds, and used Corvus to abduct wolves and magical humans. But the king had signed early authorizations for containment research and could not claim complete innocence. War councils gathered on both sides of the frost line. Before politics could consume them, the silver attack had damaged the Stillwater seal, but had not removed her choices. "You may renew Stillwater," Malin said. "You may sever, or you may awaken." Kale stood outside the chamber. Ara asked him to enter. He stopped at the threshold. "May I?" "Yes." He came to her bedside. "What do you want?" she asked. "The answer I want and the answer I have the right to give are different. Give me both." His voice roughened. "I want a lifetime with you. I want to wake beside you, argue with you, watch you heal people who do not deserve your courage, and spend years proving that my first failure will not define everything after it." Ara's throat tightened. "And the answer you have the right to give? Choose the life that is yours. If severing frees you, I will help perform it. If still water keeps you human, I will defend that choice. If awakening calls to something already inside you, I will stand outside the circle until you invite me closer." Ara looked toward Ren. Her sister's breathing had improved since the night Ara touched the dormant wolf power. Not healed completely, but stronger. Ara thought of the laboratory doors opening beneath her hands. She thought of the white wolf waiting without command. "I choose awakening," she said, "not to become your mate, not to save your crown. Because I want every part of myself that fear taught my family to hide." Kale closed his eyes. Relief moved through the quiet recognition thread. "Then I will stand outside the circle." The moon healer awakening took place beneath the open sky at the oldest spring in the Northern Territory. Ara entered the stone circle wearing white linen. Ren and Malin stood within it. Kale, Theron, and Darian waited beyond the boundary. Malin placed spring water before Ara. "Name what belongs to you." "My body," Ara said. "My healing, my anger, my mercy, my human life, the wolf that slept inside it." "What do you release?" "Fear mistaken for obedience." Ara placed both hands in the water. Memory opened around her. She saw generations of moon healers tending humans and wolves together. She saw human kings order their sanctuaries burned. She saw mothers teach daughters to hide the silver light in their palms. Then she saw her own mother, not as she had looked while dying, but young and fierce beneath a moonflower tree. "You were never half of anything," the memory told her. "You were always a bridge." The white wolf approached. Ara touched its forehead. "I am ready." The world became light. Pain followed, but it did not feel like punishment. Bones shifted, senses widened. Pure white fur swept across Ara's body, luminous silver healing runes spreading across her chest and flanks. Her eyes shone silver gold as a great female wolf stood in the circle. Ren laughed through her tears. Kale's enormous silver-gray wolf lowered itself beyond the boundary. Not claiming, greeting. Ara stepped toward him. The boundary waited. She could remain within it. Her awakening was complete. She did not need the bond. Kale did not move. Ara crossed the line. Their foreheads touched. The recognition thread warmed, but she did not complete it. "Not yet," she said after returning to human form. Kale wrapped a cloak around her only after she nodded. "Not until you choose," he agreed. The joint tribunal convened 3 weeks later at the Frostline Stones. For centuries, the stones had marked where human law ended and pack law began. Now a long table crossed the boundary itself. Human judges sat on one side, pack elders on the other. With neutral healers between them, border villagers filled the hillside. Families of missing wolves stood beside human parents whose magical children had vanished into Vespera's laboratories. No crown controlled the proceedings alone. Vespera arrived in gray prison robes, but carried herself as though the tribunal were beneath her. Corvus looked smaller without his polished coat and armed men. There were purchase orders for silver, lists of abducted prisoners, maps of illegal hunting grounds, and reports describing pain as if it were no more meaningful than temperature. Corvus attempted to blame every crime on Vespera. She answered by producing letters bearing his seal. "I provided knowledge," she said. "He supplied bodies." Corvus shouted that he had obeyed royal necessity. King Edric attended under guard. The human king was neither uninformed nor powerless enough to escape responsibility for what had happened beneath his authority. He admitted approving research intended to defend Ashbourne from wolf attacks, but denied authorizing torture. Ara looked at the rows of names in the ledgers. "Did you ever ask what the word containment meant in Lady Vespera's reports?" Edric did not answer. "Then you chose not to know." Silence spread across the hillside. Ara testified first. She described the silver fire trap, the threat to Ren, the labyrinth, and the human children whose names appeared in Vespera's ledgers. Cale testified after her. He did not demand vengeance. He demanded law. "The treaty failed because it protected borders more carefully than people," he said. "The new one will do both." King Edric could either face war and public exposure or sign reforms. He signed. The new Thornwood Accord outlawed silver fire traps, blood magic experimentation, forced mate claims, and the detention of magical beings without joint review. Human villages and wolf territories created shared sanctuaries where healers could work without surrendering freedom to either crown. A second provision required every magistrate's emergency powers to expire after 7 days unless reviewed by an independent court. Corvus had used permanent emergencies to search homes, seize medicine, and silence witnesses for years. A third provision established safe passage through the Thornwood. Human healers could travel north. Pack healers could enter border villages. Neither side could arrest them for treating the wounded. Some human nobles protested that the agreement granted too much to wolves. Some pack elders protested that it trusted humans too quickly. Ara answered both groups. "Trust is not what we are signing. Accountability is." Vespera was sentenced to life confinement in a warded fortress under joint authority. Her research would be preserved only to identify victims and reverse the harm she had caused. Corvus lost his office and faced trial for murder, kidnapping, theft, and treason. At his separate hearing, villagers from Briar's End testified about confiscated medicine, unlawful taxes, and threats disguised as royal orders. Mira, the widow who had once helped Ara through winter, spoke for nearly an hour. Corvus listened with the disbelief of a man who had never imagined poor people would be allowed to remember what he did to them. His confiscated wealth repaired Briar's End and funded medicine for families he had taxed into poverty. King Edric returned to Ashbourne under the supervision of a reformed council. He kept his crown, but no longer possessed the authority to conduct secret magical research. Cale did not celebrate the settlement as a victory over humans. "Peace built on humiliation waits for revenge," he told his council. "We need peace built on records, witnesses, and consequences." Ara returned to her cottage after the tribunal. The door still bore the damage from Corvus's search. Cale waited outside. "You may enter," Ara said. Together they rebuilt the treatment room. The cottage became the first Hearthmoon sanctuary, open to humans, wolves, and anyone the old laws had taught to hide. At first, villagers approached cautiously. A mother brought a child whose hands sparked whenever he was afraid. An elderly wolf arrived in human form, with a silver fragment buried near his spine. 2 sisters from the capital sought refuge after Vespera's former assistants threatened them into silence. Ada treated each person under the same rule: no crowns in the treatment room, no ranks. Pain does not become more important because it belongs to someone powerful. The rule became famous enough that one pack elder removed his ceremonial coat before entering. Ren worked beside the pack healers. Ara's moon healer magic repaired the worst scarring in Ren's lungs, while Ren insisted on continuing herbal treatment because, as she said, magic is not an excuse to ignore good medicine. By autumn, Ren could walk from the cottage to the Moonflower Hollow without stopping. She still carried an inhalation tincture, and cold weather could still tighten her chest, but fear no longer organized every day of her life. She began studying under Malin. "I want to become a healer," she told Ara. "You already tell everyone what to do. You are halfway qualified." Theron frequently escorted wounded patrol wolves to Hearthmoon Sanctuary. Ren accused him of pretending every visit was official, though he always brought new field medicine notes for her lessons. Once he arrived with a scratch on one knuckle. Ara handed him a cloth. "This requires no moon healer. Ren says every wound deserves proper care." From the kitchen, Ren called, "I said proper care, not royal dramatics." Darian denied having any affection for Briar's End, while quietly funding a new roof for every widow whose home leaked. Children followed his red-eyed wolves through the village until the supposedly feral lord learned to carry sweets in his coat. Cale visited without guards whenever politics allowed. He learned to knock. He asked before touching Ara. He never again called her his unless she called him hers first. They argued about laws, patrols, and whether kings should be allowed to investigate traps alone. Ara always won that last argument. Months passed before she invited him to the Moonflower Hollow. The forest had healed from the fire. Pale blossoms shone around the place where she had found him. Cale stood beneath the ancient trees without crown or weapon. Ada touched the faint silver-gold mark at her shoulder. "I chose my wolf," she said. "I know. I chose my work. I know. I chose to forgive you slowly, after you gave me reasons." His expression tightened with emotion. "I know." Ada stepped closer. "Now I choose you, Cale Stormborn. Not because your wolf recognized me, not because a mark tied our magic together, because I know the man who listens when I say no, returns with proof instead of promises, and uses power to protect choices he may not like." Gold entered his eyes. He knelt. Ara Finch, moon healer, terror of magistrates, defender of impossible causes. "May I complete the bond with you?" Yes, the ritual required no coercion and no threat of death. Using a single ceremonial moon silver blade, they opened their palms and pressed them together. Healing light and wild magic joined between them. Cale waited. Aura tilted her head and exposed the place above her shoulder. Now, she said, his bite was careful and brief. Aura felt the bond open not as a chain, but as a door. Then Kale lowered his head. Aura bit him back. The connection settled into place, equal and chosen. Warmth filled her mind. His love, his relief, his fierce joy, none of it erased her own thoughts. Mine, Aura whispered. Kale smiled against her hair. Yours. The Northern Pax did not crown Aura simply because she was the Alpha King's mate. They asked her to stand before the Pack Council after a year of work at Hearthmoon Sanctuary, treaty negotiations, and healing missions across both territories. Humans from Briar's End spoke for her. Pack mothers spoke for her. The rescued children from Vespera's laboratories sent moonflower crowns. When the wolves howled their approval, Aura accepted the title of Luna as a responsibility, not a reward. Ren placed the silver circlet on her head. "Does this mean I have to bow?" Ren asked. "Only when you are being especially annoying." Ren bowed so deeply she nearly fell over. Kale laughed before the entire council. The following spring, Aura stood at the edge of the thornwood while humans and wolves gathered for the first shared moonflower market. No captured creatures were exhibited as trophies. No magical children hid their gifts, and no hunter entered the market carrying silver. Ren ran the medicine stall and charged Terran double for tea, because he had once called nettleroot grass. Kale joined Aura beneath the trees. "This is where you found me," he said. "This is where I made the most expensive mistake of my life." "You regret the moon water." Aura looked toward Ren, laughing without coughing. She looked toward Hearthmoon healers, wearing silver gold symbols openly. She looked at the king who had learned that recognition was not ownership and love was not permission. "No," she said, "I regret how expensive saving you became." Kale placed a hand over his heart. Cruel woman. Aura took his hand. The bond warmed between them, chosen, balanced, and alive. She had entered the thornwood to gather enough moonflower to survive another week. Instead, she had helped build a world where survival no longer required hiding. And for the first time in generations, the forest kept no secrets because there was nothing left